exactly right. But let me ask you, bro, speak, because I heard you say that you don't trust black leadership, period. And in particular black male leadership. What type of leadership do you think black men, if they were given all the land and all the space, what do you think that they would do with that land and space?
To be honest, they many of them would fuck it up. It would go right back to white people. I mean, I always say 25% will do right. 50% it vary. Depends on their situation. 25% will fuck it up and then try to take the other 50% for themselves just to sell it off to another group of men. That's how I feel about it. That's why, like I said, I don't trust it because a lot of these guys are self-serving. They're not about. They're not even about building themselves. All they value is pleasure and self gratification to the point where it's a detriment to their their future, their lineage, and their legacy. Hello, everybody. This is Brother Speak at the Brother Speak podcast. I'm here. So that was from Faith Factor. Shouts out to Faith over there. We had a discussion about a year ago, and we were talking about black leadership, and mainly we were talking about the things that were happening where that 16-year-old girl got shot by the cop. I can't remember the city. And, it was still towards the end of the George Floyd situation. And, and I made the statement that I don't trust black leadership in America. And the Tyre Nichols situation affirms why I don't trust it. Because we have a lot of people, when they get in these positions of power, it's not for the betterment of black people. Some of them may have started that way, but then they get corrupted. And they see where they really truly lie in the grand scheme of things. And so they either bow down or they just become a victimizer. Now, we have these 5 black cops. And, a cop's supposed to be a leader of a community. They're supposed to be for your protection. These 5 cops was not looking to protect. And they weren't even looking to punish criminals in a sense. They were looking to victimize people. They were looking for the weakest link of the group to prey upon. They were using their position as a police officer to just victimize people. They were no different than a gang on the streets or a prison gang. There was no difference. If you took their uniforms off, put them in some gang clothes, took their uniform off, put them in the inmate clothes, this was no different than a group of dudes ganging up on one weak link and beating them up because they could. And this was all under the watch of a black police chief who was a black female. Hence why Jason Whitlock was talking about single mothers and all that. I believe in there's a culture of that, but here's the thing. He don't even have to be under a single mother. You could still be in a household with a father who is violent towards children, and you would have the same result. These were guys who rather be victims. They wanted to be the victimizer, or they were victims of violence in their community and decided payback. We're going to be victimized. But instead of going after actual criminals, they're going after innocent people, just like somebody went after them in their past. And sadly, this ain't nothing new. And, you know, at times we have police violence or police shootings, and you have either a black mayor or a black DA, and they look so ineffective because there's always someone above them who can either pull the cord on their power, get rid of them, or override whatever they're doing. I mean, you've seen that with Obama. When Obama was president, when he had a Democratic Congress, Democratic Senate, things he wanted to do, he did. But when he got that Republican Congress, whole different story. You know, I remember at the prison I worked, we had a black major. Now, the maintenance man that we had, he was a white guy. Now, he had connections. His family was in higher up in the prison system. So basically, he sucked at his job. You know, stuff that should have been fixed, didn't fix it. He always kept claiming they didn't have the parts or they didn't have the money, which he did. He had the parts and the money. He just didn't want to fix it. So, and when he do try to fix something, it was half-ass. One time he tried to fix this roadway that went from the back gate, the back entrance of the prison to the loading dock area near the kitchen. It was a mess. So ACA came around, which is the American Corrections Association. Now, this is a federal thing where they check all these prisons, make sure that the quality of life for the inmates is good, everything is fixed, you know, everything is supposed to be so these inmates can have, quote unquote, a place where they can rehabilitate. Okay. Our prison failed that. It was the first time in a long time we failed that particular thing. And what happened was the major nearly got fired. The warden that we had at the time had to retire early. All because some white maintenance man, lazy, don't want to do his job, and they couldn't do nothing about it because they didn't have no power to get rid of him. Now, after that happened, I guess the people higher up got rid of him. They had to get rid of him because that was an embarrassment on the state of Texas for that to happen. I tell that story to say that that's kind of what happens with a lot of black leaders in America. They kind of they can't really protect themselves, and they can't protect the people, which most time if you become a leader, that's what you want to do. You're trying to protect the people around you. But they can't because they're in a very powerless position. And it's either you're gonna bow down or you become a victimizer. And unfortunately, like I said, the cops became a victimizer. Or like I said, you bow down. Or like for instance, the lady Amber guy who shot that black dude in Dallas went into his apartment. That was a black police chief, a black female police chief, making excuses for it. You know. Now, the black police chief in Memphis, at least she did. Soon as that video came out, she fired him. She eventually fired that white cop too, aka relieved the duty. But the fact that these guys thought that it can do that under her watch showed that they really didn't respect her. There's another reason why I don't trust black leadership, because a lot of people don't really respect it. And so they just do whatever they want to do. And that looks, again, it's still going to look bad on her because she is the leader. She should know her people. It's just like in the prison. I give you another sample. We had this female lieutenant, one of my favorite lieutenants. This inmate had got hurt. The officer, she saw that he busted his head. So the officer called my lieutenant. She told the sergeant to go down there, check on it. Now, typically they're supposed to bring that inmate to medical if there's no medical here, because our unit is not 24-hour medical. They leave at 6, 7 o'clock at night. But what they do have is they can connect to the medical unit, which is down the street, via conference call. The sergeant didn't do that. I guess the inmate said, I'm not going. The sergeant just left him where he was. Turned out that guy he had to go in the hospital. He was hurt really bad. The lieutenant and the sergeant got fired. But that was because her sergeant did not do what he was supposed to do, was bring him out, put him in medical, and now if he refused, which depending on how severe, in this case, this guy was severe, he had to go. He couldn't refuse. But it was a situation where it wasn't as serious. If he refused medical, all he had to do was sign paper and, hey, it's off the hands, it's on him. But the sergeant didn't do that. So she got fired. And he got fired. And that's another reason why I don't trust black leadership, because again, they may be wanting to do the right thing, but the people under them don't respect them enough to do the right thing. And so when they fuck up, they get blamed. Because you're a leader. So if your subordinates do fucked up shit, guess what? You're going to get blamed. So everybody's looking at her. Then, you got Jason Whitlock talking about, well, single mothers and all that. And I'm like, yes, the culture of single mothers is a problem. Yes. But to blame single mothers for it, you can't really blame them. Because ultimately, if we're going to talk about leadership, if we're going to say the men are the leaders, well, if the men are making these single mothers, or even if these dudes are in the home and not being the leaders they need to be, guess what you're going to have your boys doing? Being victimizers. Because again, out here, either you're going to be a victim or a victimizer at times. And a lot of people choose to be victimizers, bullies, as you will. And that's what these 5 cops in Memphis decided to do. Be bullies, victimizers, hunting prey. And these are supposed to be your leaders, your protectors. And they weren't protecting. They didn't care. Because they hated this guy. They didn't see him as a person. They saw him as easy prey. All under the watch of a black police chief. Who she probably might have known how these guys act. But she didn't keep them in check. And they didn't bother to keep themselves in check out of respect. So when I say I don't trust black leadership, I just get affirmed every time when I see situations like this, like Tyre Nichols getting beat to death. That should never happen. But it happens because we don't have no strong black leadership in America. How can you? When there's always someone above you to clip you at your wings. So that's all I want to do today. Nothing more than less. Just that's what I wanted to talk about and why it is what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. With that, I'm out. Y'all have a good one. Peace.